All right, welcome back to a Gen Z Perspective, episode 5.
Already.
Here we go, man. It's a little different today. Someone missing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
of
we're missing a simp.
one of the boys left. He decided, he's been working really hard. He graduated, and so he's off to spend a weekend. Actually, no, a full week.
Mm-hmm.
He's spending a full week with his girl, and
Victoria.
yeah, I mean, lucky him. I get it. Life outside of high school it can be stressful, and especially when you guys don't get to see each other all the time, it's a little different of a situation.
I mean, hey, you've been on this island your whole life. Get out of here. Start moving.
Yeah, it's what the end goal is for most of us, anyways. Unless you want to raise kids here or something.
I'm not there yet, thanks.
Yeah, no. You sure? You sure you don't want to do that right away?
Yeah, I think I'm okay.
I was thinking that right away, like during high school, if you're not pregnant in high school, I think you're doing something wrong.
If you're a guy and you're not pregnant in high school, something's wrong.
Yeah, man. I mean, it kind of transitions in nicely into what we wanted to talk about today, because he loves this girl a lot, and I'm really happy for him. They've been together for a really long time, and it's amazing to actually have found that person that you can be with for over I think it's been over a year.
Yeah, it's been, I think you said 19 months or something?
19 months, yeah. Summer, beginning of summer last year, they started dating, and they really, really love each other, and more power to them. It's really amazing and beautiful to watch, for sure.
Yeah.
It's hard, though. I mean, for a lot of guys to kind of express those types of emotions a lot of the time. Like, you get a lot of walls built up.
Yeah, it's hard to be a sensitive guy when society builds standards to not be sensitive when you're a guy,
I mean, we get told that, oh, you gotta be tough. You gotta make money. You gotta be the alpha, and then that's how you're gonna get the girl, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a thing that society, how do you say that? Portrays upon you, puts upon you.
Mm-hmm.
They put that upon you, and then you're getting put in this situation where you can't. It's wrong. It's wrong.
I mean, those things aren't necessarily wrong. I think they're good to take with a grain of salt, and to definitely have in the back of your head, but not be scared to approach the sensitive side and the other side of you. Society has built this standard to make it so guys can't express their sensitive self as much, right? Yeah. If you express your feelings, or if you're a guy and you cry, well, you're not a man. The old ideology, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is slowly changing.
It is slowly changing, but it's also I think I can't believe that it was ever the reality. I can't believe that's what they taught us at any point, because I think that being sensitive and emotional actually does more for you.
Completely.
Right? I mean, I had a really hard experience a week ago. I was talking to someone who wasn't in my life anymore, and we used to be really, really close, and afterwards I had a definite moment. I cried for a little bit, and I actually felt way, way better afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like holding any emotion back. It just builds over time, and it becomes worse and worse. And if you hide those emotions and you just choose to ignore them and not face the problem face first, for its value that it has, if that makes sense, it's just going to become a bigger problem and eventually knock the door down. And it's going to be much worse than if you just dealt with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Bottling up those emotions, they make the situations way harder.
Mm-hmm.
Way harder, because they just build and build, and then they burst through in a dam, and then that's when you get situations where you're angry and you're hitting things, and because we never taught, there's no counseling, there's no teaching for how to properly handle emotions
or how to express properly.
Yeah, especially as a guy.
Yeah,
I feel like any time that I was sad or failed at anything, even if it was a presentation or a project, I would just lock down inside of myself, rather than reaching out. And even though I'm aware of the problem now, the programming is still there. Right?
Subconsciously, it's in your brain.
Yeah. And you just, I don't know, it's kind of sad that is, sorry about that. I need to turn off my ringer.
But, I mean, I've never been scared to express myself,
Really?
or well, in certain situations, I should say. You know, like if, let's say, I'm in a relationship and I see a problem, I'm not going to go forward not talking about that problem. I'm going to bring it up and say, hey, what's going on, I don't feel is right or necessarily fair.
Yeah,
You know,
that's really good though. That's really healthy, isn't it?
it
Because
is completely. Because it's kind of like if you just ignore those problems, like I said before, they're just going to become worse over time. And a lot of the time, like, if you, let's just say you see like something that kind of irritates you for whatever reason, like, I don't know, let's just say someone, instead of putting their towel in the wash after they use it, they just put it on the floor.
yeah,
And you just say, hey, this is really, really annoying me. Over time, if you don't say anything about it or, you know, address it in a positive way, it's just going to become a bigger problem that they're going to get more irritated about, as well as you get more irritated about over time, which could become much worse. It's kind of like a metaphor to take, I guess.
I think that's yeah, absolutely. Because you have an example is like you set the towel on the ground, and maybe the night before you said something at dinner that kind of annoyed them, and then a couple of weeks before that you didn't like do the dishes or like whatever it is. You know, you live in like, and then the towel on the ground is that breaking point, and then you guys are fighting over a towel that wasn't washed when the real emotion is all coming from somewhere else. But because you never talked about it, the feelings built up, and then it's so hard to take it seriously and literally because it's about a towel on the ground rather than, hey, what you said to me last night really hurt my feelings, or I felt uncomfortable because of this and that. Like you didn't express how you felt originally, and then a different problem was the trigger, right?
Exactly.
Something that I've always really liked and admired about you is we talked about this a little bit ago, how you said that you've kind of always known who you are, right? I can't remember the exact verbiage, but you were like, other people help influence my decisions, but I'm very self-confident in who I am, and I'm going to make the decisions that I think are going to be best for the people around me and that I love.
Exactly.
And that's a really good outlook on life.
I mean, like, I think it's like, it's almost like taking anything you hear and considering it for yourself, right? It's like, I may not agree with everything someone says, but I can look at it in their perspective and understand why they live it that way, live their life that way. And that can influence how I live, but I can choose to see how it influences me.
Right. So you take it at face value. You take what someone else says at face value and you absorb it and you listen. Rather than hearing what they say, you listen to what they say. And those two words are so similar,
but very different.
They're so different.
It's like when you hear something, you're hearing it, and it's almost like you can have something to counter, right? Compared to when you listen, you're genuinely listening to what they're saying and why they're saying it.
And then you retain what they're saying, and it also shows how much respect you and love you may have for another person. Like when you really like look them in the eye and you acknowledge what they're saying, then that's when you're listening, and they can tell. The other person can tell, and they can always feel it, and that is so useful in any relationship, whether it be with a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a friend, a family, anything, right? And it's sad the fact that so many people can't do that anymore. They just hear and tune out and then shout and like listen to my voice. That what I'm saying is more important.
It's kind of ironic because you need to listen to them before you can say your piece, and they in turn need to do the same. Yeah,
I mean, everything becomes a two-way street.
Yeah,
I definitely had issues with that where you'd be with someone, like you're in a relationship, and a big problem with the relationship is that you're saying like, oh, we don't communicate enough. I didn't hear you say this. You never told me this, but you say you did. You're like, hey, like I did tell you this, and then the problem gets worse because they're not even. You're realizing that they don't listen to you. They realize it's like they tune you out because everybody knows how to do that. Everybody sat in class and like tuned out the teacher or tuned out somebody. It's so easy, right?
Well, it takes effort to listen to someone.
It's hard. It's really hard because you have to be aware.
Yeah.
And you can't just zone out. It's something that I wish I'd learned a long time ago. And I know it's hard to believe that that's what's going to happen. Like, it's hard to expect that upon someone who's 14 or 15. But man, my life would have been so much easier if I had just like really sat down and listened to what the people around me were telling me rather than thinking that I knew what was best.
And I mean, I think if you have a gut feeling over something, go with that.
Yeah.
Right? But a lot of people are telling you things for a reason.
Yeah.
Whether that reason be good or bad, listen to it and take it and digest it for what you think is best for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And like, I almost think of like, even if someone insults me, I almost take it as some sort of critique. Because if they insult you, they had a reason to insult you, so why would they insult me?
Right. Not always. They might be projecting, but in general, a lot of people, I think if you care about them and they care about you and they insult you, they're probably coming from a side of creative criticism or constructive criticism.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something like that doesn't really, what's the word?
Apply?
Yeah, apply, thank you, to the actual situation, then whatever, doesn't matter. I won't use it for that reason. I won't interpret it and think, okay, what is that? Like, I got called a piece of dirt. Why did they call me a piece of... No, like, no. But if it's something like, hey, almost more of a constructive criticism way, I guess.
Like let's use the example of you were out partying and you were with a bunch of your friends, right? And at the end of the night, one of your friends came up to you and was like, hey man, you were kind of a little creepy towards this person. And it wasn't like, and you could either choose to get angry. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to come at you. But it was like, hey, like, I feel like you should go and talk to them about it. And rather than getting angry and be like, nah, fuck you, you don't know what you're talking about. If you take that at face value and you go up to the girl and you're like, hey, like, I just want to
say sorry or something.
Yeah, I want to say sorry. Like, let's have open communication. There's a lot less problems in the world if you openly communicate and you accept criticism and understand that that doesn't mean someone hates you.
No. Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's part of the reason that your friends razz on you all the time. Like, it helps. It's good for you to, like, have a bit of a dialectic and, like, some jokes and things like that, right?
And I think they do it out of subconscious support.
Yeah.
If that makes sense,
yeah.
Right? It's like for me, like, a lot of my friends are just like, oh, yeah, because you were stupid and didn't get your driver's license.
God damn it.
Like, I know already. Like,
yeah.
But, you know, it's kind of like along those lines.
I think something else on the other way, though, like constructive support, it is always good to give somebody like a little bit of criticism and like kind of, you know, especially if you love them and you guys are close, it's totally allowed. But I personally in life have been really trying to go the other way, where you give acknowledgement to people for the things that they have been working hard on.
Oh, completely. I think
if you give out positive energy and then you're talking with your friends or you're talking to someone, you're like, then they've been, say, we'll use you as an example, you're talking about your music. And if I give you genuine advice and feedback on your music and I go like, hey man, I'm really proud of you for what you've been doing. I see you're working really hard. That's going to make you feel a lot better, right?
Of course.
Because it's acknowledgement for the work that you're putting into something that you love.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people would be a lot more happier if they spent their time doing that rather than putting out negative energy into the world.
Yeah, right? I agree. I think it takes a lot more. How do I put this? It's that's loose, by the way.
Thank you.
It's much easier on somebody to give positive feedback on something than negative, especially on yourself and the other person. You know, like it.
You think so?
I mean, as in the way that it works beneficial both ways.
Yeah, I agree.
With that respect.
But I find that it's for a lot of people, I think it's easier to shit on something than be positive about it.
I guess, yeah, I can see that then.
Right? Like if someone has an idea and it's kind of out there, right? And you're in a group of people, it's way easier to be like, nah, that's not good. Like, say a song comes on and some people like it, some people don't. But if you say like, oh, it's shitty, most people will then follow that because it's just easier. It's easier to hate on something than to support it.
Yeah, I guess that's true, unless it's a genuinely original idea that everyone kind of vibes with.
That's true.
But that's not normally the case.
It's not normally the case, and I wish it wasn't like that. I wish that we were trained to be I like the word programmed.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that we were programmed to actually be kind rather than rather than to project animosity. I think that would be really good for humanity as a whole, and especially people our age.
Yeah.
Right?
Look at our generation.
Our generation is so interesting because like we're all super like a lot of us are very intelligent and I think open-minded is a good word for it, right? We don't see a lot of people because we weren't raised in that time. We don't see a lot of people outright disliking someone based on choices that they make. It's mostly based on personality and who they end up being rather than the way that they look or anything like that.
Their personality over certain things. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Like I feel like that's a lot more important for people our age. Like, I would never understand like why you treat somebody badly because they dress funny or they have a bizarre taste in music or something like that. Because that doesn't help anybody. Like it takes so much energy. Like you said that like listening is hard, right? That takes a lot of energy. I think that human interaction can be really hard, right?
Yeah.
And putting out that negative energy just makes things harder on everybody. And if you don't like someone based on like if you don't like someone, just don't hang out with them. It's so easy. Right?
Yeah, completely. Like I think if a good example is like if you let's say there's a popular group in school, but you are not really a big fan of the way that they treat other people or they act around other people, but they are still inviting you to join their group because of whatever reason, and you join that group and then you realize that you don't really enjoy being around them. Where am I going with this?
Don't hang out with them just because they're popular.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not the point. The point is like
if you genuinely enjoy being around those people, then you should. If you don't, then it's easy enough to just go hang out with someone else.
It's so easy to do that, and it's also like I think another good thing is like why burn bridges? Why burn bridges? Because if you treat somebody shitty, they're not gonna want to be your friend in the future. You're gonna have like it might make your life easier in the moment to put somebody else down so that you feel better, but in the long run, all you're gonna do is make that person go home and feel like crap, and then you don't know what type of person they're gonna be in the future. Especially right now, we all change so much, right? Best example of this is the girl that actually did the art for the podcast, like did the banner. I drew it and then she digitally created it. She was in our grad class and very few people know who she is. And she had a hard time in high school and she had people picking on her and she really doesn't like a lot of people because they just didn't treat her nicely. But I always did. And now we're friends and she's going to university and she's becoming super successful in digital art. And I would have never been able to create that logo or do any of this work if I had burned that bridge.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
More possibilities are able to become you're able to go on more bridges if they're not burnt, basically.
Yeah, you have more opportunity. I mean, like, I don't know. I don't know anybody else that can do digital art design. I would have had to pay someone. And instead she was like, hey, like, we're friends. You've always been nice to me. I'm happy to do this for you. And it, like, I never planned on getting anything out of being nice for her, but it's just something that I'd kind of realized. I was like, you know what? You should spend more time being kind to people because in the long run, it'll pay you off more.
Completely. I agree. Because, like, being mean to somebody will just hurt them and you in the long run more because you'll reflect on that later and be like, wow, I was a real dick to that person.
Yeah.
Like, I would never do that now. Like, let's say you got bullied in middle school even.
Yeah.
And then, like, grad year, someone comes up to you and says, oh, I'm sorry for treating you this way. I changed and I realized that wasn't the right thing for me to do and I genuinely apologize. You're going to have to realize, like, if they didn't do that in the first place, that wouldn't have happened. Like, they wouldn't have to say sorry, and it's nice that they did say sorry, but it also made them realize that the negativity they give out also just over time comes back to them.
It really, yeah.
So
Yeah,
what
I
you
agree.
give out, you will eventually receive in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's been based down, like, one of the first lessons you learn is treat thy neighbor how you want to be treated, treat others how you'd like to be treated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the energy that you give out in the world is going to come back to you for sure.
And it's very, like, especially with social situations, that's such a good way to describe this. It's like, I've always been a very quiet person. Um, I may like see someone in the halls that I've wanted to get to know, but for whatever reason, choose to just walk past them and not acknowledge that they're really there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And who knows? I could have, if I waved and said, "Hey, like, how's it going? What's going on?" I could have had a totally different friend, like a totally new friend, which could have opened way more possibilities to different things.
and yeah, and like anything that they were doing now were connections that you could have in the future, right?
Yeah, and the way that since I just walked past them and didn't say anything, they did the same. But
Yeah.
if I said hi or they said hi to me first, I would have said hi back. It's very simple, when you break it down like that.
It is really but also like that first step is so hard.
Mm-hmm.
That like something about the transition between a stranger to a friend, or like even just an acquaintance, it's so odd because everybody's so scared to do the first little bit, but then when it happens, it's actually pretty easy.
Yeah, and it normally boosts your
Confident.
and you feel good about it after.
Yeah, and it feels great to like, man, that first when you see somebody that you don't know and you meet somebody new and you talk with them, and because how do I explain this? When you're walking down the street, everybody around you is just another person. Like
Mm-hmm.
they have you don't have any connection with them, and you are also just another person. And they have an entire life and a story and a place they're going and a place they just came from and a goal and a thing they're doing, and you are just you're just somebody walking down the street. But as soon as you make that connection, they go from being basically a blank piece of paper or a robot, like, to a real person that you can connect with and you care about. And even if it's just like, hey, how's it going? How is your day? How are you feeling? Especially right now, it will make somebody's day.
Yeah.
It'll absolutely make somebody's day. And so is that something? So that's something that you say you kind of struggled with being a quiet person, is making those new friends and getting those connections.
Yeah, because I mean, in one, everyone's scared of being judged in one way,
Yeah,
you
of
know,
course.
and I think that's something I learned way later, is to not need to worry about what other people think of you,
No.
right? But for so long, for whatever reason, it's like there's a group of people that, hey, I want to talk to them, but just like, I don't know why, but I just didn't,
Mm-hmm.
and
And you wish you did now.
yeah, I wish I did now. Like, example, I wish I talked to more people in my grade, when I was in grade 12,
Yeah, making those friends. And
right?
those
And just
connections.
enjoying more of the people who are around me.
Yeah.
But, just because I'm a very quiet person and tend to just like to listen and absorb what's going on around me
Yeah.
instead of be what's going on around me.
But then when you connect with someone like we have, or like you and Seth have, or the three of us, when we all hang out, you open up and there's so much in you that you have to say
Mm-hmm.
that just takes a minute to come out, right?
Yeah.
Because I think you of all of our friends, I think I've had some of the most profound conversations with. Especially when we've gone up skiing, or like, I mean, Halloween was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That was a beautiful experience, and like I love I really like and admire the spiritual side of you, actually.
Thank you.
I like the in-depthness and this, I think self-aware is a really, really good word.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
But the fact that you recognize that you're not the best at just like opening up and talking with someone,
Mm-hmm.
do you find that recognition of it makes it easier for you?
Nowadays, yes. Because I didn't really understand that before. I did, but I didn't. It's a good way, like, kind of hard to describe it, but like, I kind of knew that I was always. It's more okay. A better way to put it is, once I have understand and trust that person more,
Mm-hmm.
it's more easy for me to open up to them.
Yeah.
I can't just meet a random new person and just, tell them something that I would like tell you, basically, right?
You can't just go off and be like, I'm going to tell you everything and I trust you. You really have to build that relationship with somebody. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are like that.
Yeah.
It's called, it's not like you're antisocial, but you're more of an introvert.
Yeah, basically.
Which, honestly, it's a good thing. I think that there's no, like, introvert and extrovert, I don't think either ever have a benefit in life. It's about both come with their strengths and weaknesses, and if you can recognize what your weaknesses are and learn from them and be like, okay, this is something where I'm not super great at and I want to work on it.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be in a happier place because you worked on yourself, your life is easier because everybody likes human interaction, right?
Yeah, we're social.
So yeah, we're social beings. And it makes you super happy. Like, even just like giving your friend a hug is an experience that's like uplifting almost, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's something that I kind of missed a lot is human interaction over COVID was something.
It's changed so much.
It's changed so much. But it, like, I really like just like hugging people and like touching, like being able to like actually touch another human being. To me, it feels so good.
It's almost like a gratification.
Yeah.
In a way. Like even giving them high five, simple as that. It's like an affirmative of, how do I put that?
Like an affirmation of your bond, I guess. I don't know. It's really hard to put into words. We talked about this before, like conveying emotion into the English language.
It's impossible.
It's hard.
It's not impossible, but it's like saying, I'm gonna give you a paintbrush, and you're gonna paint a color. I mean, not color. You're gonna paint this painting, and you have to paint everything in these colors. But I'm gonna give you like black and white goggles. So basically, you see everything in black and white, but you need to paint it how you think you see it. Yeah. That's like expressing emotion through the English language. You have no idea. You just kind of like slap on some paints there. Yeah. You kind of get an idea of what it is, but you will never know it until you fully experience it without those goggles.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, emotion is like, it's colorful. Like, it's so colorful, and there's so many words don't give it justice.
No.
Tone of voice, like all of those things become a factor in it, and it's something that you're gonna have to work on forever.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to a podcast about philosophies and stuff, and it said this thing, and it really resonated with me. And it said that love is an art form. It's something that you have to practice over and over and over again, and you will never become a master of. But you can never, you can't stop loving, and you also can't stop learning how to love.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like if a painter decided that they're like, okay, I'm the best painter in the world, and then they stop painting because of that. Like, you
can never stop learning something, even though you might be the greatest at it. There's always more you can learn.
No, of course not. Just the expression, like, it's really hard to explain, but I think just if you think about it yourself, just think about it like when you have free time, you're by yourself, just think about like love is an art form, and it's 4 words, 5 words, but can mean so much because art is one of those things that connects everybody together. May it be music or dancing, food or drawing or anything like that. It's a universal thing, and it's an expression of emotion. Far better than the English language is, or any language.
Yeah, I think having, I guess the best way to put it is culture.
Yeah.
Having a culture to relate to with another person, even if you speak totally different languages, will probably form a better connection than if you speak the same language and do boring things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I had actually an amazing experience like that just a couple of months ago, where I met this person, and she barely could speak English, but she was an amazing cook. Mm-hmm. She was super good at cooking, and I love to cook as well, and she's like way beyond my level, but we were able to bond and interact, even though we could barely understand each other, through this art form that we both love.
Yeah,
because it's just a part of culture.
It's a language in itself.
Yeah, when I hear you talk about music, it's stuff that I can't even understand. But to like, because it's such a language and you've delved so deep into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've been engrossed in this language for years and years. Yeah, I don't know. It's impressive.
And like I've had experiences with people who I can barely understand, like my drum teachers when I first started drumming, taking lessons with him.
Mm-hmm.
I now understand his English better. I understand his accent, but before, he's from Cuba, and for me, it took me so long to be able to understand what he was saying.
But when you guys played together, could you understand?
Yeah, when he was playing, it was like, okay, you're showing me what you're trying to make me express.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So I can now interpret that for myself, and eventually, after a while, I learned his language his accent, and making it easier. But that's a great example of like.
It's an amazing example.
Even though I don't speak Spanish, I can understand what you're saying just by showing me something else I understand.
Yeah, because you guys don't need to talk through the English language. English language
helps.
Yeah, it helps, but it's also restrictive. It's restrictive because you can only use these base words and syllables, and it's a dialectic, and it works, but at the same time,
it's a very bland example of what you're trying to express.
It's black and white.
Yeah, exactly.
It's black and white. Yeah, exactly. Where do we go from here, man?
I don't know. I mean,
actually, I wanted to talk to you about this. Do you mind? I wanted to ask you how you felt about what happened with your ex.
I'm fine to talk about that. I think, I don't exactly know the reason why things happened for like what's happening for me.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand why things ended for her, but for me, it didn't make as much sense, right?
Yeah, because you were ready. It was that state. You were ready to give your all into what was happening?
Yeah, well, I guess so, yeah, because I was kind of like at a spot where it was like, I think it's changed now, but I was at a spot where I was like, okay, I could stay single for like another year and be happy, but there's someone who I care a lot about, I want to put this effort into, and it turned out to be something that I thought I could see a lot of good coming from it for both sides of the party, if that makes sense. And, things don't always happen that way.
No, which is sad, but I mean, you were so honest with her about how you felt, and then you were so willing to take that step forward.
And I mean, we were both incredibly honest. It was a really honest relationship, and it was really healthy, and things were going really great. And it actually didn't really end because of how things were going. It was just other personal issues.
Yeah.
Right, and I think things happen for reasons, and for her reason of the things happening, it's good for her when she tells me the things that she did tell me. I understand why she ended it, and why things. I have respect for that, because we're really all in our own personal. We only have ourselves through this whole life. We may express and be with someone else in the moment, but when we die alone.
Yeah, I know. I hate that so much. I hate that wording and the way that works, but it's so sad that it's true. It's true. There's this saying in Japan that it says you have 3 faces, and there's the one that you show the public, there's the one that you show your loved ones, and then there's the one that you have to yourself. And nobody else is ever going to see that third face but you.
Yeah.
No matter how close you get with someone, you're alone with yourself.
It boils it down to, no matter what, you're gonna have your own perspective of yourself compared to what someone else will see you as.
Yeah, it's a dangerous mindset if you aren't aware of it,
or use it correctly.
Or use correctly, right? Because us as teenagers, we already think that we're the center of the universe, but at the same time, we are the center of our own universe.
Yeah, not of the, but of our.
Of our universe. And everybody around us, like, I like to think of it as you throw a pebble into the ocean, and the ripple effect goes out, right? And so if you throw a cluster of them, a ripple goes out, and it's all resonating from one center point, and the ripples might get affected by other pebbles' ripples, but there's still, like, say you're a pebble, I'm a pebble, Seth's a pebble, and we all go into the ocean, and then the ripples come outwards, we might be affected by each other, and if we landed close together, we'd be affected more by each other. But at the end of the day, that shockwave that we created still resonated from us as the center of it.
It's a very good analogy.
Yeah, it's a thought that I've had a couple times, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's good to kind of have that to be aware of, not to necessarily follow religiously, you know. I think you should definitely take, you know, that into consideration with the things going on around you, you know, like it kind of goes along the lines of the things I was saying earlier, you know, you interpret things for what you see them as, or you should, you know. Don't take one person's advice and solely like just follow that.
No, of course not.
You should take that with a grain of salt and judge what you're hearing with what you understand and know.
Yeah, like everybody should build. I don't know what other word to use than like I guess belief works. Everybody should build their own belief system, and based on their experiences and what they've been taught, and just absorb little bits that they truly feel comfortable with from everybody else.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than saying like, oh, I'm this, and this is the belief system that I have. It's like, you know what? I like this. I like that you integrated. I like the level of compassion that you have. I believe that that's an important thing in life. I believe in that taking time to think about yourself first is important, and I'm going to take a little bit of that rather than I'm a nihilist and I'm going to follow just those rules.
Yeah.
Right? Going back to a little bit of last week's episode.
And I mean, I think if that's what you want to do, and if that's what you do, then whatever. It's great. But, you know, for a lot of other people, like for me, example, that's not how it works.
No, you can't. No one is ever going to tell you, hey, this is the best way to live life. Have you ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so a big part of that is finding the meaning of life. And they figure out that the answer is 42. And it's just a number. It's just a number because the correct thing to think about is the question itself, and that the answer is going to be different for every single person.
Interesting.
There isn't going to be your spark. Your spark.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to the movie
Soul.
Yeah. I think that movie has a lot to offer.
So much.
You know, for instance, like my entire life I've kind of known like I love music and I love playing it, but it's not why I'm here.
No.
You know, I'm here, I've always known I'm just here to live and to experience a human emotion and to be an entity, a physical entity.
Like the girl in that movie. The girl who came to Earth and she never wanted to be there before until she really experienced the little things that actually make life worth living.
It's like understanding an emotion you've never felt before.
Yeah. Like today I have never felt I had no reason to be extremely happy, but I walked into town and the sun was shining and the birds were chirping and I was just content and happy because life was beautiful, and that's all I needed. I didn't need to be like making money that day. I didn't need to be doing this. It was just about living in the now and seeing like the little wonders that life has.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the main reason of living or of being, you know, alive is to live it.
Yeah. Everything's the journey. It's about living the experience, right? In that movie, was there a character that you really, really resonated with?
I mean, I really, you know, what was the main character's name again? Is it David or something? I don't remember.
We can call him David.
But you know how he could get really in the zone.
Yeah.
It's just almost a meditative state.
Yeah.
You know, where you're so in tune with the things going on in the now and in the moment that everything else you're oblivious to everything else.
Absolutely. And that's when you're performing on stage.
Exactly, yeah. It takes you onto an entire different frequency almost. You're completely, it's almost like you're on a high.
Yeah. But it's the best high in the world.
Yeah, like the amount of adrenaline and just energy you have inside of you and are able to play through your instrument is incredible, because that instrument will resonate with those emotions you're putting into it.
Yeah.
And that's what really builds upon, you know, like feeling and being in that zone.
Yeah,
Is
I call it like getting in the zone, or like a moment of absolute focus,
mm-hmm.
where the world the world shrinks down to the smallest little bit, and that's all that there is.
But also, is it really the smallest moment? Because that's all there is.
Not the smallest moment, but like
I get what you mean, though.
let's say like I used to dance, right? And when
Mm-hmm.
I was dancing, or like or gymnast, doesn't matter. When I was dancing, and I'd be on stage and be in front of 600 people, I don't notice anything. I didn't notice the crowd, the audience. I could feel their gaze, but it was just about me going through the motions and being there, and my like my awareness was like on the highest cue ever, but also so focused inward.
Tuned in.
It was just tuned into the music and the vibe, like everything. So I guess a great example would be like, you are just focused on your drums. You're in there, and that's what you're thinking about, right?
Yeah, and I mean, things are different. Like when you're playing all together as a band, you kind of have to focus on each other.
Yeah.
But, you know, let's say a solo comes up and completely, you just totally focus on your practices and your drums, and everything's led up to this moment you're living.
It's amazing that every person actually has that ability. It's about, you find the thing that you love to do, and you practice it over and over and over again, and then you get there, and it's amazing. You see it in martial arts, you see it in music.
You see it in anything anyone's passionate about.
Anything. I think that it expressed itself most in art, though.
Oh, easily.
I think I think almost anything can be an art, and it's what you are. It's like almost what you want to create and express your emotions through, right? It's how you can channel the way that you feel.
And I mean, you know, definitely. Like I think, like when you say anything is an art, I 100% agree. Because, you know, you can even take walking as an art form. If you want, that walking can be an art form to yourself, because maybe when you walk, you just have clear thoughts. And that, you know, you can't get those clear thoughts anywhere else. And, you know, that in itself is an art, because you can't do it without walking.
Absolutely. I mean, you know that like when you're moving your body and you're standing up, you think way clearer anyways. So I could totally see how that would be the reality of your like the way that you come up with your best ideas, the way that you focus the best is when you're walking and you're moving or whatever it is.
And the same goes for when you're playing an instrument. It's like you are that instrument for that time.
It's a part, it's an extension of your own body.
Yeah.
And you have like, it's also relaxing because you have full control.
Yeah.
You have full control. Like the world is so chaotic, but when you're in that space and you're in this area of perfection that you've cultivated for yourself, you have absolute control over what's going on, and it feels amazing.
It really does, you know.
Man, I think it's been a minute since I've been in that state of mind. And like when you get super absorbed into something, it's so fun, right? It's like enjoyable, and I've definitely been there, but it's with the way the world being shut down, there hasn't been a time where I've been able to like focus in and perform or do anything like that.
And I mean, that goes from, you know, so many things, and especially like artists today.
They're struggling.
Yeah, and that whole industry, you know, even actors for filmmaking.
Yeah.
They barely any of them are on the set. Like there are a select few, but they're all like quarantining all with that cast.
Yeah, you have to be. And you get COVID tests every time you want to do anything.
And like, I never hear of any concerts going on anymore. Like,
no, you can't.
Know,
it couldn't be.
I mean, there was one exception, but that was when we went to what's it called? Like just a little theater. But instead of 266 people all sitting there was only 50.
Yeah.
Right? It's all socially distanced. Yeah. And it's not the same.
No, it's not the same. I think online has really helped that. I've definitely seen, there was this thing that I saw, there's a lot of really famous artists like Post Malone and those people, and they were doing covers of like Nirvana and the Chili Peppers and Pink Floyd, and they were just streaming it live to like 1,000,000 people.
Yeah.
And it was just them and their friends, like him and his friends getting together and playing music and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably, if you're trying to get out there through art and stuff and you're not taking advantages that social media have for you,
you're missing out.
You're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I know. I think right now, like I was thinking a while back, like what about if we were going through this pandemic without the internet? Like what if we grew up without the internet? Obviously, if we did, then things would be different now. But I think we're able to. The internet is something that is it has turned the world into a culture and a mix of other cultures.
Yeah. I mean, we have a super box in our pocket that gives you access to the world's entire information and anywhere else in the world at just the reach of your fingers from basically the minute they are born nowadays. Like most people who are 5 have access to the internet and can reach anything out. That's the thing. Like, because I remember a time before that. I remember when there was the flip phone and you have your Apple Pod that plays your music, right? Man, what was it? I really wanted. There was something that was like. I mean, clearly it wasn't that important, but I think it's important. What were we saying?
That if we go back a little bit, if we lived without the internet, things would be different right now, and our perspective of.
Oh, okay. No, I got it. You said that if we went through the pandemic without the internet, we would be in a very different place. I kind of think, at least given where we live, that I don't think our life would change at all then, because not change at all from our present now, but I don't think we would have ever experienced COVID, because
actually, that's a good point.
I have one friend. We have one friend that he got COVID, and he was totally fine, but I wouldn't have known that it was COVID. I would have thought it was a flu because no one died. No one around me has died.
You don't have access to that information.
And if I didn't have access to that information, I would have graduated high school, and I would have been out partying every single day, and I would have been out doing all these things because there would have been no fear and there would have been no awareness of it because it's not here.
That's something to go for, like programming and the things that we're shown we so easily believe.
Yeah, you see it and you're like, oh my god.
Like when they first started showing the things in what was Wuhan, China, of people in hazmat suits with it looked like there was bodies covered up by bags on the street, which is not true. Those things. I never see people dying on the street from COVID.
I know. I mean, I think in big cities it has become a thing, but again, I wouldn't know that without the internet, right? We wouldn't have any access to that level of information. And I think on the whole, it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that we have the internet. I think that the opportunities it gives us and the people that we can meet. I mean, when was the last time that you were able, like before our generation, where you could really learn about all the opportunities you have, right? Like a lot of your lifestyle was based upon where you lived and what your parents told you had to do. But right now, like I'm going to school next year, I'm going to UBC, and if it's online, I have an opportunity because my parents support me and they are saying like, look, Niko, as long as you pay for it and you are willing to do these things yourself, you can do anything you want. So I might just up and leave and go to Bahamas or Hawaii, or I want to be in the tropics. I love the beach. I love the sun, and study at UBC, which is based in Vancouver, but I could do it anywhere.
Yeah, online.
Online, because they've given us that option and that tool.
Yeah.
Right? So in that case, I think it's a huge benefit.
Definitely.
But then there's the other side. There's the fear. There's the false information. I mean, even us on this podcast, a lot of it is opinion-based. A lot of it's what we think. And I'm sure we have said stuff that is totally not factual and has been spreading false information, right? And that's something that you just have to be aware of on the internet.
And the thing is, when you're on the internet, you pose yourself as very vulnerable.
Yeah. Expressing yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, expressing yourself in person, like you said, it's hard. Like just face to face when you can see the people. But giving your opinions to like a faceless audience, faceless audience.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like I remember our first podcast, I was stressing, and I was like, well, we already bought everything. Like we have to do this, but it was scary. And like even in high school, posting an Instagram photo, I was like, fuck, like I'm gonna get judged for this. Like, what am I gonna do?
But did anyone come and say anything?
No.
Exactly.
No, that's the thing. I mean, with this, we have that group of people who are giving us free brand deals. Actually, I want to talk about this. We mentioned time and how like how busy your life is, and you take up, and you when you things you put time towards is stuff that you put energy towards, and that's like a part of your future.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for us, this podcast is just 1/7 of like the things that we're doing with our lives. We get together once or twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
We record an episode. We like do a little bit of work with it, right? But could you imagine devoting your time to something that somebody else is doing that has no connection with you whatsoever?
Feel like a waste of energy.
It's a huge waste of. Bro, if I had time to do that, I would be so happy. Like, like, time is energy, and energy is like, it's so valuable.
It's vital.
It's vital. Like, I have come to a point in life where I won't give my energy towards people that I don't care about.
Yeah.
Because all it's doing is it's not benefiting me. It's not benefiting anybody, and it's just becomes. It's kind of pointless, right? Like if you don't care about someone, why interact with them? Right?
It's like buying a burger and not eating it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, in this case of the fake podcast and Instagram account and all that stuff, is one, thank you guys, because when everybody found out that you were a fake account, we doubled in views and subscribers and followers, so it was very helpful. But at the same time, I know you have to be listening because you're a fake image of us. You're a fake image of us, like, so I don't know. It seems like it's kind of like why do that? Why waste your time doing that? You're putting energy into something that's just a small part of Troy and Seth in my life. And if you want to do that and you want to express your feelings on the internet, just make your own podcast or do your own thing, because this is just what we're doing, and it's fun for us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of sucks. It sucks for me and all of us to have somebody else out there saying things that I totally don't agree with. Mm-hmm. Like, this whole podcast is about giving our perspective, and then they say things that just don't
resonate with things you would say.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I wanted to bring it up, is because that's the part that cuts deep for me. It's like using my name and our name to put forth something that I don't believe in,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, definitely.
And it's done really well. Like, credit to you, it's done really well. But I don't know. Anyways, we should move on. But it's just something that I wanted to bring light to a little bit, because it's been like, it's just been there, you know?
Yeah.
But rolling back to what you said about being on the internet, being scared to express your emotions, like, or how you feel, I think a part of that is because you can't see them, right?
And you're not going to know how many people are going to see it or who's going to see it.
Yeah. And they can say anything. They can leave a comment. They can say, like, oh, your guys' videos are crap, your opinions don't mean anything. And, like, what are we supposed to do?
I know,
like,
well, someone, they would never say that to our face, but
yeah.
Since they have the internet, they can name themselves as some random dude from wherever on the world and make it seem like, that's who they are, but in reality, it's someone we know.
Yeah,
right.
And they're behind a keyboard, and they're like, "Oh, you guys suck. You're so bad at this." And it's like, "Yeah, okay, do it yourself. Try." It's so. It goes back to, it's so easy to talk shit. It's so easy to be mean to someone,
mm-hmm.
but where does that ever get anybody?
Not very far.
Constructive criticism is one thing. Being an asshole is totally different. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
And it translates to real life scenarios too, right? Like, we talked about this in the beginning. You say something shitty to someone, like, how is that really going to help them if it's not like constructive?
Yeah, it's not going to help them really at all.
No. And I've had some people actually ask us and be like, hey, I want you guys to talk about this. What do you think is the best way to go about introducing yourself to a girl that you're interested in?
Well, first of all, just talking to them.
Yeah, right.
But I think the best way to kind of introduce yourself is to spark up some kind of conversation and find something to relate to.
Yes, I think that's really good.
If you can, just, like maybe it starts off as an awkward conversation, but over time it grows into something a little bit nicer, or something you can both agree on, or even agree to disagree on. That's something.
Yeah.
And you can really build it from there.
I think the first step is actually the hardest, because you take your step and then you're at a crossroads. The person can either tell you no, go away, or they can say like, hey, like, okay, I think you're cool, like, let's hang out again. And honestly, there's never anything wrong with taking that step, because
it won't hurt you in the long run.
It's not going to hurt you in the long run. One, you never grew an emotional attachment to them, so if they say no, you're actually in the exact same place in life you were 5 seconds before you asked them. You don't know a person, like there's nothing there, but you have all of the opportunity for something much greater. So
and I mean, I don't think, if you don't really know, or if there's someone like at a small gathering or something, I don't think anyone's gonna reject a conversation with someone they don't know just out of being kind.
Yeah,
unless they're just a rude person, but most people will be open to having a new conversation just based on someone coming up and talking to them.
Yeah, it feels good when someone comes up and talks to you. And also, if they're rude and they tell you to go away or whatever, do you really want to hang out with them to begin with?
Exactly.
Right?
It proves a point of them to yourself.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad person. It just means that they're not, you guys don't vibe. You don't click, right?
And, that's totally fine. It happens. Some people just don't.
I mean, rejection is a part of life. Like, right? And honestly, I think it's good for you. I think I've learned more when I failed and been rejected than any time that I've ever
succeeded at something.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I honestly love failing. I love failing because it teaches me so much.
Yeah.
Right? You ask. I had this happen to me once. Actually, you want to hear a funny story, man?
Yeah.
I might have told you this, but last time I've asked somebody out, like I think I've been rejected asking somebody out more times than I've had somebody say yes.
I mean, I think that's a fair thing to...
Yeah, it happens, you know. It happens a lot, but the last time that I asked somebody out, I think this is a really good move. And actually, Seth, he taught it to me. So you know how when you go around right now in every restaurant that you go to or any place you go to, they ask you to write down your number.
Yeah.
Right? They ask you to give you your number. So you can use a couple ones. There's the like, hey, so now that I've given you my number, can I get yours? That one's pretty good. But what I ended up doing is I went to the gym and there was this really cute girl working behind the counter. And I wrote my number down and like signed in and everything. And then we were talking a little bit and I left and I was like doing my workout and I came back at the end of it because I was going to ask her for her number. And she wasn't there. She was still working there. So what I did was I drew a little speech bubble next to my phone number.
Call me.
And I wrote, call me. And little did I know, I got a text like, I don't know, 4 hours later saying, hey, is this Niko? That was the cutest thing anybody's ever done. That literally made my day. And just that like a little recognition and that little bit of like, oh wow, just it took 2 words. It took 2 words for me to say call me to make somebody's day.
And probably caught her by surprise. Yeah,
because I would assume that most people aren't that willing to take a risk. And if she'd never texted me, never texted me. Like, I don't know. It's not that bad. So yeah, if you want to find someone, you want to build a friendship, a relationship, take that first step. I think that's a really good piece of advice.
And in turn, it will teach those other people to take first steps as well in any other situation. Because, maybe not right away, but subconsciously they'll kind of understand that if you never took that first step, you might never have known each other.
I really wish that idea happened a lot more with girls. And like, meaning I've got quite a few friends that are girls and they always say to me that they want to be asked out and that they want someone else to show them that they're interested and willing to take the first step. And every time I go, do you understand that guys feel the same way?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I would say that if you're, friends with a guy and you're hanging out quite often and you see, let's just say for a little bit, you see some kind of interest, but you kind of see it as a friendship, but then things start to change and you feel emotions to that person.
Mm-hmm.
I almost guarantee you 9 out of 10 times that you ask them out, they'll say yes.
That is, okay. For a girl, if you're around the same league as the guy, basically 90% of the time, if you ask out a guy, like, they will say yes.
Yeah.
There is no reason to be nervous
Do you
about
know
it.
how many not confidence, what's the word?
Condoms.
You know how many, what's the word? I know it. No, it's my
This is why we have editing.
Yeah. Okay, let me just think of the word. It's when, not an insult, the opposite of an insult.
Compliments.
Compliment. I knew.
There we go. We got there.
You know how many compliments a guy gets to a girl? Next to none.
Next to none.
So when you ask them out, it takes them completely by surprise, and they're like, "You see that in me? I mean, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
I'll go on a date."
Not that girls should be the one to ask out the guys. I really think in this new age of like everybody needs to be equal. Just if you like a guy, don't be scared to ask out the girl. Or, wait a minute, hang on. If you like the guy, don't be scared to step forward and take that step and ask them out.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're friends and you've already been talking before, that fear should definitely not be there. If you guys like know that you flirt with each other and you know that there's a thing there, that shouldn't be something to worry about. If it's somebody brand new, again, if they reject you, it doesn't affect you because they weren't in your life to begin with. And 90% of the time, a guy will go, "Oh my god, you think I'm hot? What? Huh? Okay, sure."
Sometimes we're not the brightest of people.
Emotionally, no. Emotionally, we are dumb. And if anything, like, all the things that I've learned about emotions have 90% of the time been from girls. Because it's stuff that they naturally understand. And like we said before, boys aren't raised to express emotions as much.
And I mean, girls are also, in most cases, the caregiver. They're raised to be a mother, so they always express their emotions more than guys do.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think it's different from person to person, obviously. Everyone's completely different.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, I think I am very in tune with my emotions, and I think that's a blessing that I have.
Yeah.
Compared to the majority of guys who just tend to ignore those emotions when, for me anyway, if I feel something, I'm going to fully feel it, and I'm going to go through with it. And I feel very in tune with the feminine side of me as well, just because of who I am and how I was raised. But
I think we need more feminine guys in this world.
Yeah, it's like I don't see the point in a lot of the things that guys do.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time, it's like I'm trying to think of an example, but
you can think about like the super just
toxic masculinity.
Yeah, just like the really douchey. All right, here I got a story. I got an example and a story of this. I was on Hornby with a couple of friends, and we were out, and it was summertime, and we were partying, and we're walking down the beach, and we're hanging out, and there's this party there, and I don't know if you know what the people on Hornby are like.
I've heard.
Horny be the girls on Hornby Island, and also the dudes. But the dudes are worse. The dudes are worse because you'll be in that situation where you'll get this. Bro, guess what? Guess what I just did? That girl over there, that one, you see the one I'm pointing at? That one right there? She just gave me fucking head in the bushes, boys. And then they'll all just go, yeah, fuck yeah, dude. And the girl is sitting there, can hear the whole thing. And that's fucking disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
That's so gross. And that is like the full level of toxic masculinity where she regrets what happened. She feels awful. You, as the dude in that scenario, are stoked for about 15 minutes. And then you realize that you're absolutely not getting any farther with this girl. and you're getting nothing out of it because you chose to be a douchebag rather than a person.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, for me anyway, I've always been very balanced with masculine and feminine sides of me.
Yeah.
And that gives me a lot of optimism in the things that I see and the things that I hear and experience of people saying around me.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So I've always seen like the stupidity in so many guys, like even in class.
We are dumb.
Yeah, and half of the time it works because, well, I guess society has grown to, in one way, shape, or form, accept that stupidity.
That's the perfect way of putting it. It's, you know what, most of you are dumb. Emotionally, you're all stunted and immature. So that's the baseline. Like, we're just going to have to accept that and be okay with that's how it's going to work.
Yeah.
And it really shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, I think immaturity, that's a big one. So many guys are just immature and don't understand how to take things responsibly.
It's because we emotionally we actually grow up slower.
It's true.
We emotionally there's a large reason why girls that are 16 date boys that are 18, and it's because emotionally they have the same level. They have more of a similar level of intelligence than because 16-year-old boys, we are the fucking worst. Like when I was 16, I cringe at the thing. Like if I go back through text conversations or the way that I acted, like it's bad, man.
You were also very egotistical at that point in your life.
What, you saying I'm not now?
Not as bad, let's just say that.
I know. But the thing is like, guess what? It's over and done with, and we learned, right? Mm-hmm. We learned that that's not important. Those thoughts that, oh, you need to do this, you need to show off, you need to impress everybody around you to be the best, to be whatever. It doesn't work. Like, obviously, like I've turned out okay. I have great friends and everything. But that's also because I changed. Like you said, I used to be that way, right? Mm-hmm.
Good.
Okay. I think something that would be super helpful for a lot of these types of guys is to have more girlfriends. Not dating, but friends that are girls. Mm-hmm. Because you learn so much. Like, for example, you're very well connected with your sister, right?
Yeah.
You two are super, super close. And I bet you anything that a lot of that emotional maturity, feminine side of you, comes from the relationship that you have with your sister and your mom and the friends, the girls that have been around you that have elevated your maturity.
And I mean, it would make sense from the way I grew up. I grew up with, when I was young, I had my sister, and then all my friends, basically, not seven, let's say, I think it was about 8 out of 10 of them were girls.
Yep.
All from when we were young, like from the ages of being born to, I think, the age of like 12 was legitimately, like, we would always go see family friends, and I think they had, my parents were friends with these other parents, and that one parent's parents, so they're, extended family, I guess. All their grandkids were all granddaughters, and they had about, I think, 6 granddaughters, as well as, just so many more. That was really badly explained. But basically,
you were surrounded by girls while you were growing up.
Yeah, and I think that gave me a lot of the things I am today.
I agree. I think that is super helpful. I definitely have kind of come from the same thing, where a lot of my friends, like my oldest friends that I knew from basically like 1 and 2, they were all girls, and then there would always be like a couple guys that I could relate to, but even those guy friends, most of them had also grown up a lot around having girls as closer friends, because I don't know, I really like it, and I like it as in a way because when you become really close with a girl as a friend, right? Mm-hmm. And it's very much like, hey, we're friends, then there's a whole nother side to the relationship, more than just dick, vagina, and I want this, because now you guys are both aware, like, hey, this isn't what's going to happen. We can still love each other, but it's nothing to do with that. It's like the emotional growth.
We have a friendship.
Yeah, and you learn so much more from like people that have other experiences and other outlooks will teach you more than people that think the same as you.
Yeah. And that's why opposites attract.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of the reason why I don't even know why is it that a lot of guys like I know quite a few guys that they're like they don't have any girlfriends at all. It's like you got the boys and then the people you sleep with.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I don't know. Maybe it's just because a lot of the time they're scared to make that move.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, you know, if that's only the thing that you only have friends who are girls just to sleep with them, then you never actually have a friend who's a girl, like a really close friend. So you never have that experience or those emotions you feel when you're just hanging out with a girl, you know, and those emotions become foreign when all you do is sleep with girls.
A relationship is so much different when you are friends versus having that underlying thing of like, oh, we could be hooking up or we could be doing this, because you can be so much more honest with them. You can be, and when you are really close with a girl, you can, at least from my perspective, it's a lot more comforting. Like I find myself telling my girlfriends a lot about me that's like more on the emotional side because they can understand it and then they can help me work my way through it. Mm-hmm. Right? Whereas with the boys, we're it's stunted. Like, we're idiots. Like we don't know.
Let's have a fun time. Let's party. Like I don't know. Yeah. Just goof around.
And it's not bad. It's absolutely not bad. It's wonderful. Like I fucking love hanging out with the boys, but it's just different, mm-hmm. right? Having a girlfriend is different than having a guy friend.
Yeah, I think it's good to have a middle ground between the two.
Yeah, I don't think that I absolutely wouldn't be the person that I am if I didn't have those friends that they're like they become almost like family, especially if mm-hmm. you see them enough. Like it's just it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man. Some good shit.
Yeah.
Some good shit.
It's got interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it covered a lot of things.
I agree. You know what? I don't mind the 2-person podcasts.
I like it.
I don't mind it. I'm actually really happy because I especially have been wanting to get you to like open up more with it, and I think here we fucking go.
Yeah. No, I think it's good.
Yeah, I'm really happy with this. Is that a picture wrap then?
I think so.
I think we covered a lot. Yeah, that was excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. That's the end of episode 5. We are probably gonna get back to you guys in the next week. I think in the future we're gonna have our first girl on.
Yeah.
Girl on the podcast. I really want to do that. Diversify some of the opinions and get some things. If you guys have any ideas or things you'd like us to talk about, just leave them in the comments. Mm-hmm. You can find our podcasts now on Spotify as well as YouTube. The link is in the channel. It's that little Spotify thing in the top right corner. And God, this is the most YouTube thing ever. Like and subscribe. I hate myself for saying it, but
do it.
We have some of our videos have like 600 views and we have 40 subscribers. So yeah, subscribe, use the algorithm. Mm-hmm. If you guys like what we're doing, stay in touch, and yeah, that's about it. Anything else you want to add, Troy?
Just thanks for the support and everything, but just thanks for listening and giving us your support and your feedback. It's all very much appreciated.